You know that feeling, right? When life just feels like it's piling it on.
Hmm.
Maybe you lose your job or a relationship ends and suddenly you're just questioning everything.
Yeah,
It's that really heavy feeling like you're at rock bottom, and honestly, even just getting out of bed feels like a huge effort.
it really does. And it's more than just being sad. It's this emotional drain.
Yeah,
It just saps your energy to do anything.
exactly.
And An Unbreakable Life, the source we're digging into today, really gets that. The author shares their own experience facing, well, exactly those things. Career chaos,
Mm.
a marriage ending,
Yeah.
that whole daunting feeling of having to start all over again.
And that's precisely what we want to focus on. We had a listener ask specifically about, how do you build hope? How do you find resilience when things get that tough?
Right.
So our mission today, using An Unbreakable Life, is to pull out those practical, actionable insights, stuff that can help you shift from feeling totally overwhelmed to, well, feeling a bit more empowered to handle whatever's next.
I mean,
So let's get into it. When you're really in that dark place, where does hope even begin? Does it just appear?
well, what's really interesting is the author's experience wasn't some, like, lightning bolt revelation. Not at all.
Okay.
Hope at the start was much quieter. It actually sparked from the simple realization that they could still do things, you
Ah,
know. Amidst all the chaos, realizing they could still manage basic, everyday tasks. That was the first glimmer.
really? Just everyday stuff.
Yeah, it suggests hope isn't some gift from the outside. It's something you build internally, like one small action at a time, proving to yourself you can still interact with the world.
That feels almost backwards, doesn't it? When you feel that low, taking
Mhm.
any action seems like the hardest thing.
Totally. But the book points to this shift,
Yeah.
moving away from chasing some big, distant goal
Right.
and just focusing on doing what you can do right here, right now. That little pivot seems, well, crucial.
Okay, so focus on the immediate.
Exactly. And interestingly, that deep despair can sometimes paradoxically sharpen your awareness.
How so?
Well, the author mentions noticing small acts of kindness or just moments of stillness, things they'd completely missed before when life was, noisier.
Ah, like the intensity clears the clutter.
Sort of. It's like it creates space for new perspectives. And you start to see that even when you feel like you've hit the absolute bottom, there's usually something solid underneath.
A surface beneath the bottom, as the book calls it.
Yes, exactly. Something to build on, even if it's small or it doesn't seem like much at the time.
That's a powerful idea. It suggests that resilience, even if it's buried deep, is where that earned hope comes from, not something handed to you.
Right. It's not borrowed optimism.
Hope that's built in that fire, the book argues, it tends to last, doesn't it? Because it's yours. You fought for it.
Absolutely. It's forged in that experience. It really makes you think, doesn't it? How often do we see a really difficult time as just
Yeah.
the end,
Yeah.
instead of maybe, just maybe, seeing it as a potential new beginning, with that little seed of hope already there, just needing a small action to get it going?
Okay, so hope can spark even in the worst times. But then how do you nurture it? How do you keep it going? The book talks about the power of framing. What's that about in practice?
Right? Framing. So the idea is, look, you can't change the past, right? The bad stuff happens, setbacks, failures, they're real.
Can't argue with that.
But what you can change is what those events mean to you now.
Okay.
The author gives his example of getting demoted,
Mhm.
taking a pay cut. Ouch.
Yeah.
Initially, the frame was just pure rejection, failure. But then, by consciously asking a different question like, okay, what is this moment trying to teach me? The whole meaning shifted.
So same event, different question.
Exactly. It went from rejection to maybe a prompt or a redirection. Suddenly, it wasn't just an ending, it potentially opened up new possibilities.
So it's not about pretending it didn't hurt or sugarcoating it.
Not at all. It's not denial. It's about making a conscious choice about the narrative you tell yourself. The book uses divorce as an example. Is it a total collapse, or is it maybe a return to your authentic self?
Wow, those are fundamentally different ways to see the same situation.
Hugely different. And the fascinating part is, this isn't just about feeling better about the past.
Mm-hmm.
How you frame things shapes how you act now and what you expect next.
How does that work?
Well, instead of hitting a new challenge and thinking, oh, great, here we go again.
Yeah, that familiar dread.
Right. The reframed approach might be, okay, what strength does this situation require me to find? When the pain starts to have meaning, the book says it stops being just suffering and becomes, well, a passage, part of your story.
I like that. And the idea of looking back at hard times and intentionally adding, okay, but here's what I learned from that. It feels like it takes some of the negative weight off the memory.
It does. It extracts the value. The
Right.
facts don't change, but the story you build around them does. And crucially, when the meaning shifts, your behavior often follows suit. Outcomes change. The future feels less like it's already written by the past.
Right.
Framing becomes this really powerful internal tool, like a technology almost, for rewriting your life's direction.
Okay, so we can find hope, we can frame our experiences, but the book also talks about the choice to create hope. That sounds really active, like it doesn't just happen to us.
Exactly right. The book really pushes back against that passive idea that, time will heal everything or hope will just come back eventually.
Which is tempting to believe when you're exhausted.
Totally tempting. But the author's realization was that hope, especially when you're feeling worn down and indifferent, has to be made. It has to be actively cultivated.
Made how? What does that look like?
It starts with the smallest possible actions. Seriously small. Like just managing to get out of bed, replying to one email, adding one thing to your resume.
Wow, that's small.
Yeah, because those tiny efforts, they send a message, mostly to yourself, that says, I'm still in the game, I'm still trying.
Like tiny acts of defiance against the despair.
That's a great way to put it. The book calls it a quiet defiance. Even taking a slightly longer walk than usual or making eye contact and greeting someone. Small, intentional acts. And here's the key insight. Hope isn't just an emotion. It's described as a structure.
A structure.
Yeah. People who maintain hope aren't necessarily just naturally optimistic. They've often built little mechanisms, small habits or routines, anchors you could call them, that create space for possibility.
Can you give an example?
Sure, like a simple morning habit. Jotting down 3 things you managed to do the day before. Not goals, just acknowledging what you did. It keeps that sense of hope alive and nudges you towards doing something else today.
Ah, so the action has to come first, then the feeling of hope follows, not the other way around.
That's the critical order the book suggests. We act, even in tiny ways, so that hope can be born. We don't wait to feel hopeful before we act.
That's a really important distinction.
It really is. It means even on your worst day, that one small action you take holds the seed for tomorrow's strength.
Now, when you're going through these tough times, it's so easy to feel completely isolated, like nobody gets it, nobody sees you struggling. The book brings up the power to notice those who hold us up. Tell me about that.
Yeah, this hits on that feeling of invisibility that often comes with hardship.
Definitely.
The author talks about their own experience, after the job loss, the divorce, feeling like they'd just vanished and no one cared. But the insight here is that support. It's often really quiet, subtle. It's not always big, dramatic rescues.
Right.
It might be a short text message, a kind word from someone, just that unspoken understanding. And you might not even register its full weight at the time because you're so caught up in the struggle.
So it's less about waiting for someone to save you and more about tuning into the signals of care that are probably already there.
Exactly. Shifting your focus. The book gives these really touching examples, like a friend texting simply, "You're still pushing through. I believe in you." Or a colleague saying, maybe quietly, "You're not the crazy one here." Those little moments of validation.
And can mean everything.
They really can. The book calls these people gentle presences, people who just see you and care quietly. You just need to be sensitive enough to notice it.
And it goes both ways, right? The book suggests we can be that quiet presence for others, too.
Absolutely. Just offering that simple, "I see you," or "I'm with you," without needing to fix anything.
Yeah.
So learning to notice that support network, however subtle, really helps loosen that grip of isolation. Reminds you you're probably not as alone as you feel.
That's really helpful. And then there's this pressure, often self-imposed, to just bounce back quickly after something bad happens. But the book says recovery actually requires space.
Yes, and this is such a crucial counter-narrative to our fast-paced culture. The instinct is often to just push harder, fill the void, get back to normal immediately.
Right. Keep busy.
Keep busy. But the author shares how doing exactly that, just pushing relentlessly after major losses, actually led to feeling more disconnected, kind of unraveling underneath the surface.
So what does space mean here?
It means deliberately stepping back, giving yourself permission to not be constantly achieving or proving something. It's space to breathe, to reflect, maybe just to exist for a bit without needing justification.
It sounds like resisting the urge to rush the healing process.
Exactly. The book uses nature analogies like trees needing winter, rivers needing time. Fighting that natural rhythm of needing stillness can actually make things worse.
So it's okay to not be productive.
It's more than okay. It can be essential. Space means not fearing inactivity, not comparing your pace to others. A day where you don't achieve much might still be a vital part of healing.
And does that space help with clarity, too?
Definitely. When you step back from the intense blur of anger or fear or urgency, you can often see things more clearly, make wiser choices. Even carving out small pockets of space, 10 quiet minutes. A coffee without screens can make a difference.
Hmm.
Healing often needs space just as much as it needs effort. Sometimes the difference between staying stuck and starting to rise again is simply giving yourself permission to pause. No race, no deadline, just space.
Okay, that makes sense. Now let's talk confidence. After setbacks, it just plummets, doesn't it? That inner critic gets really loud.
Oh yeah, you'll just fail again. What's the
Yeah.
point? It's brutal.
So the book talks about building confidence through small wins. How does that actually work? It sounds almost too simple.
Well, a key is that real lasting confidence doesn't usually come from one huge victory. It's more often the slow, quiet buildup from lots of small, manageable accomplishments.
Okay.
The author uses the example of facing, I think it was over 200 job rejections. Just imagine that.
Ooh, yeah.
Instead of getting completely flattened by the scale of that rejection, the focus shifted to daily, achievable things. Send one more application today. Revise one section of the resume. Do 3 small things. That's it.
And even if the rejection letters kept coming.
Exactly. Even with no external change yet, something started shifting internally. Strength grew just from the act of staying in motion, of showing up each day.
So the inner talk changes a bit.
Yeah, it shifts from I'm failing to something like, okay, I may not be succeeding yet, but I'm doing better than if I just gave up and did nothing.
Right, acknowledging the effort itself.
Precisely. Confidence comes from that honest self-recognition. I did what I could today, repeated over and over. That's what builds self-trust. It's about setting manageable goals, maybe just one priority for the week, to build that momentum.
So the process, the showing up, is almost more important than the immediate outcome.
In terms of building confidence and resilience, absolutely. Taking that step forward is meaningful in itself, even if that specific step doesn't lead directly to success.
And this builds more than just confidence in, say, job hunting. It builds resilience overall.
Exactly. It cultivates that deeper belief that you can figure things out, that you can find a way through anything. Those small wins stack up. They create this steady, sustainable power. So even when you feel fear about the next step, you can look back and say, okay, but I took those other small steps. I can take this one too.
That's really practical. Now, another trap is focusing only on what's gone, right? The lost job, the broken relationship. The book says we need to see what remains, not just what's lost.
Yeah, this is a huge perspective shift.
Yeah.
We tend to fixate on the deficit, the empty space, and that can easily lead to feeling like we have absolutely nothing left.
It feels that way sometimes.
It really does. The author talks about returning to Japan after things fell apart in North America and feeling like this
Yeah.
empty version of themselves, just couldn't see anything positive that was still there.
So how do you make that shift?
The crucial realization is that loss, even huge loss, doesn't mean losing everything. You have to intentionally, consciously look for what's still there. Take inventory.
What kind of things are we talking about?
Well, maybe skills you still have, like adaptability from living overseas or
Hmm.
relationship building skills, resilience itself, things that aren't as visible as a title, maybe, but are incredibly valuable.
Right, the intangible assets.
Exactly. And often what's lost and what remains are linked. Losing a job might reveal a freedom you didn't have. An ended relationship might clarify what you truly need from connection. Loss creates space, right? We get to choose, to some extent, what we fill it with.
So actively making a list.
Yeah. The book suggests literally making a list. What remains? My health, a couple of good friends,
Yeah.
certain skills, one person I can truly trust. Doing that can bring back this quiet sense of strength.
That makes sense. Focusing only on what's gone just keeps you stuck in the past.
It shrinks your heart, as the book puts it. Focusing on what remains, that opens up the future. It gives you energy for the next step. Because no matter how bad things get, something always remains.
Mm.
Asking, what is still in my hands? That's a powerful way to start moving forward again.
Okay, now here's a tricky one. After being hurt or disappointed, it's really hard to hope again. You feel scared to expect anything good.
Oh, absolutely. That fear of being disappointed again is huge.
The book addresses this directly. Do not be afraid to expect something from the future. How do you overcome that fear?
It acknowledges that fear is totally understandable. The author talks about losing all courage to believe in anything good after the North American life crumbled, just bracing for more loss. But ironically, what started to thaw that fear wasn't some big guarantee, but small, unexpected positive things happening in the future. A new workplace that felt okay. A chance opportunity that popped up.
So reality itself started to counter the fear.
In small ways, yes. It suggests that the very act of allowing yourself some hope actually draws out your will to live. It pulls you forward,
Even if it feels risky.
even if it feels risky. Hope, in this sense, isn't about guaranteeing success. It's more like a quiet, internal choice to believe that, something good might still happen.
Okay. Does the book offer ways to make hoping feel safer?
It does offer a few helpful distinctions. One is to hope in the process, not just the final result. Like, I hope I'll learn and grow through this challenge, whatever the outcome.
Less dependent on external factors.
Right. Another is to hope in small futures, not I hope I win the lottery, but maybe tomorrow will be a little easier, or maybe I'll connect with someone interesting soon. Smaller stakes, easier to handle if it doesn't pan out immediately. And the third is really important, distinguishing between hope and dependence. Hope means looking ahead while keeping your own will and effort involved. Dependence is like handing your happiness over entirely to some future event or person.
That's a crucial difference. Hope keeps your agency intact.
Exactly. So even if anxiety about the future keeps popping up, you keep making that choice not to give up on hoping altogether. Because ultimately, having hope for the future is a way of believing in yourself.
Believing you can handle whatever comes.
Right. Accepting the risk of disappointment, but choosing to believe again anyway, that's really the core of keeping hope alive.
This ties into the next point, doesn't it? The journey back to yourself. How does finding yourself again connect to hope and resilience?
It connects deeply. The book points out how easily, often unconsciously, we can let go of parts of ourselves to adapt or survive difficult situations or just avoid conflict or hurt.
Yeah, you kind of sand down the edges.
You do. The author describes working under a toxic boss and slowly losing touch with their own true feelings, their wants, what they actually enjoyed, just doing what felt necessary to survive that environment.
I think many people can relate to that.
Absolutely. And the turning point often comes with the question like, wait a minute, if I keep going like this, is this future I'm supposedly working towards actually one I want? That realization can be the start of reclaiming yourself.
And is that like a big, sudden change?
Usually not. The book portrays it as a slow process built on small, daily choices. Saying no sometimes, pursuing something just because it excites you, or in clothes you actually love. These little acts rebuild self-trust.
So it shows up in practical ways, too.
Definitely, like in a job search. Maybe shifting the focus slightly. Not just about pay, but asking,
Yeah.
does this role, this company culture, bring me closer to the person I want to be? Can I be reasonably authentic here?
Prioritizing environments where you don't have to hide yourself so much.
Exactly. And even if you still have to make compromises, we all do that underlying feeling of coming back to yourself. It provides this unexpected strength. Living authentically isn't selfish. It's about being truthful. It honors the promises you make to yourself.
And it's probably a lifelong journey, right? Checking in periodically.
Oh, for sure. Asking, do I really want this? When you feel that pressure to just conform again. But no matter the detours, that path back to being fully yourself is incredibly valuable for building a resilient, hopeful life.
That sense of inner alignment must be a huge source of strength.
It really is. It's a foundation.
Okay, so the final, really powerful message from the book. A life that doesn't end at failure. This tackles that moment when you just want to quit.
It does.
Mm.
After huge failures, betrayals, deep disappointments, that inner voice can get very persuasive, whispering, maybe this is it. Maybe this is where your story ends.
It feels final sometimes.
It can. But the book offers this incredibly strong counterthought. Wait,
Right.
if I give up here, then everything I went through, all the effort, all the pain, it just gets reduced to being another failure.
And refusing to accept that narrative.
Exactly. Refusing to let the failure be the final word, choosing to keep going, even if it's just tiny steps, allows the pain and the failure to be part of a process, part of an ongoing story, not the absolute end.
So living without giving up isn't about always winning.
Not at all. It's about continuing even when you're lost or hurt or feel completely unseen. It's about quiet persistence. That itself is a form of strength.
Like those examples you mentioned earlier, the 200 rejections, but sending one more application.
Yes. and that one led to an opportunity. Or the divorce feeling like the end of everything, but the choice to return to Japan turned that ending into a new beginning. It reframed the loss.
So choosing not to end it, it doesn't mean you have to feel positive all the time.
Absolutely not. Sometimes just holding on to the belief my story is still being written is enough. That's all you need in the really tough times. Successes, failures, joys, regrets, they're all just chapters. The book is still unfinished.
You can always write the next chapter.
You can always write the next chapter. That belief is what keeps despair at bay.
Yeah.
It doesn't take special talent, the book says. Just stubbornness, maybe, and hope. Write the next line tomorrow, then the next. That repetition shapes your unique story.
Don't end it. That quiet decision.
That quiet decision keeps the door to the future open, even just a crack.
Wow. Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We've covered a lot in this deep dive on hope and resilience from An Unbreakable Life.
We really have.
We talked about how hope can actually start in those really dark places, sparked by tiny actions, the huge power of reframing past events to change their meaning.
And noticing the quiet support that's often already around us, and giving that support too.
Right, and the absolute necessity of giving ourselves space for real recovery, resisting that pressure to just bounce back.
Definitely. And building that solid confidence, not from huge wins, but from the steady accumulation of small ones.
Plus, shifting focus to see what remains after loss, not just dwelling on what's gone.
And daring to hope for the future again, even when it feels scary. Distinguishing hope from dependence.
Yeah, and that vital journey back to living as your authentic self.
Which all culminates in that final, powerful choice. Refusing to let failure be the end of the story. Choosing to keep going.
And it's crucial to remember these aren't just nice ideas, are they? They're actual practical shifts in how you can think and behave.
Exactly. These are things you, listening right now, can start experimenting with in your own life, even in very small ways.
So maybe here's a final thought for you to take away. What's just one small action you could take today? Maybe something that feels like a tiny step forward.
Or perhaps think about one past event that still feels heavy. Could you try looking at it through a slightly different frame? What meaning could you find in it now?
Let that be your starting point.
Yeah.
Just one small thing. Because remember, you absolutely have the capacity within you to navigate these challenges, to build that unbreakable spirit.
One small step, one reframed thought at a time. You can do it.